it starts with generations before our time. Both of our parents were solid Christians. They were committed to the work of the church, and the two churches that were involved here were strongly missionary centered, so we got introduced at an early age to vision for the whole world as far as missionaries were concerned. So that's where it began, and I think it's a heritage. It just, if it's done right, it goes through the family. And Dennis, you know as well as I do in counseling that we've run into people who didn't have a family that was what you call a good model family, but that's where I bring in the local church, because that is family, and get close to some people that exemplify the Christian life, and so that's a privilege.
I was thinking the other day when I was in church, next to me was singing my daughter Sharon. Next to her was Rachel, her daughter. And next to her was Felicia, my other granddaughter, and Ginger, my other daughter's daughter, and Penelope. And then I looked back and I said, oh, my mother was a Christian, and her mother was a Christian, and her mother was a Christian. That's 7 generations.
Wow.
That's lots.
For couples who do not have children walking with the Lord, what would you say to them about leaving a legacy?
Pray a lot.
Yeah, that's certainly, and believe in your prayer that God really does hear those and response to them. Yeah, I think so. And don't belittle your life in terms of its model before them also.
So how many years have you been married?
62 and a half.
And how many years did you date?
Well, we started dating in 1950, got married in 54, so.
What examples can you give some of the couples on living a good Christian life that will hopefully leave a legacy?
Well, what comes to my mind is in 1976, we had to take Jan down to George Washington Hospital, 11 hours of surgery, removing a brain tumor, and the result of that was left her paralyzed on the right side. And I know our kids were sobered by all of that, but they watched their mother, and she was a concert pianist to that level of skill. She played the piano in the church, worship services, and so forth. And that hand is no longer useful, so that ended that part of her life. And yet she still kept on, demonstrated a good spirit. I've always said she's a strong lady. And I think that rubbed off on her daughters, at least, and the 2 sons we have as well. I think they were really impressed with that.
My sons would say I'm stubborn.
He's what?
Stubborn.
Oh.
You mentioned to me several times, Jerry, that Jan has been your biggest supporter over the years, that she would lovingly critique your messages. Can you share how vital she's been in your ministry?
Yeah, she would say every once in a while, that was a good sermon. No.
And then you would say, oh, what was the matter with the other one?
Well, I had plenty of people in the congregation to tell me what was wrong with them. Yeah. No, she was always very supportive, give me time for studying and that kind of thing.
I would do things that he did not like to do. Right?
I guess.
The bills.
Oh, the bills. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And finally, what is the key to a long and successful marriage?
Well, I go back to our parents. The only thing that separated them was death of one. And so we had great models. We grew up in a period of history back in the 1930s and 40s where divorce was not very common, you know, and back in those days, if a girl dyed her hair a different color, she was looked upon as the woman of the night. So you can see the difference in the world where our friends are developing their marriage, and the time we lived in, it was totally different. But
the other thing is, when you're in the service, you commit to God, not your husband only, but you promise to God you will hang in there. And I would not like to break my promise to God. That's not a good idea.
I may arrange my halo here in a moment.
I misspoke. One final question. Real quick, could you go and just share a little bit about each of your children, their marriage, and are they serving the Lord today?
Most of our children are serving the Lord in one way or another. One of them is married to a pastor, so that's full-time. And we got one that has been divorced, met his wife at Bible college in Philadelphia, but that didn't work out, and she left him. And but we admired him because he didn't rush off and get married to somebody else. He is married today, but it was quite a number of years there before. So we admired him for displaying that self-control. Not that she was the only one to blame, but he was quiet. She was very boisterous, and so it didn't work out as well. All the others are serving in their churches. Our youngest one, I'm being honest here now, our youngest one we love very much, but she disappointed us and got linked up with an unsaved fellow. Nice guy, but he was not a believer. And one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my whole life was refuse to marry them. I gave her away, but I didn't perform the ceremony. And I got criticized for that. What kind of dad are you, and that sort of thing. But I knew I was right because I was honoring the truth. And we have a wonderful relationship. And we pray for the fellow to come to the Lord. That hasn't happened yet. By the way, he came out of a wretched background. His mother was not fit to live with. Nothing moral, but just not a nice lady. And so you can see how, again, poor families can produce children who turn out less than what they should be, usually bitter over some aspect of their bringing up. We never had that in our background, so thank the Lord.